Hey there friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a really exciting video and it is a book review of Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This book is maybe the 7th in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. It's a high fantasy YA series and it's up there with some of my absolute favourite fantasy, just my favourite books of all time. And Tower of Dawn is the most recent release in the series. It's absolutely flipping huge. It's nearly 700 pages, no, it's nearly 600, it's just over 650 pages. It's absolutely massive, could take someone out. This came out in like the end of autumn last year and I've had it on my bedside table since, and I just, because it was so big, could not bring myself to pick it up. Like, it was just really intimidating and really scary. But then about a month ago I picked this up and have not put it down since. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, I think this is potentially my favourite book in the entire Throne of Glass series. It was just insane. So the Throne of Glass series, as I say, is a high fantasy series and it centres around a girl who, at the beginning, is called Selena Sardothian. She's an assassin in a world in which magic has been destroyed and banished. She's the best assassin in the entire world. She's the, I think she's maybe 17. She's incredible. And then as the series progresses, it just becomes something so different and basically the complete opposite of what it started as. But it's amazing. And in the 3rd or 4th book, one of the main characters gets injured and basically just isn't then seen for the next 2 books. And Throne of Glass, Tower of Dawn is his story about where he goes, and Tower of Dawn basically just covers his movement and what happens on a different side of the world during the last 2 books. And so it's quite fun as you go through this, that at different points in the books it gets referenced what in this book what's happened in the other books. This book obviously is a lot short. It's basically 2 books put into one but a different story, and the character it follows is a character called Holl. I think that's how we pronounce his name. Just for reference, if you've not read the Throne of Glass series, you will spend the entire time wondering how you pronounce every character's name, every place name, all of the words are just strange, and and you never quite know how to pronounce any of them. So I think all of us are just guessing. Even with Sarah J. Maas's name, her last name has been debated and on BookTube since her first book came out. But anyway, so yeah, it follows a character called Holl, or I call him Holl anyway. You could also call him Chaol, all sorts. It's spelled Chal. I call him Holl. Holl, yeah. So I went to school with a guy called Holl, so that was the most straightforward thing for me to call him. Anyway, and he is one of the main characters in the first 3, maybe 4 books, and then he gets injured in a battle and so gets sent to what's it called, Antarctica, which is a continent, which is like another continent, the world that we are in the other books. And Antarctica is ruled by the Khan. Antarctica is basically kind of like the Middle East of this world, and this book just builds in one book in 650 pages. It builds the world of Antarctica. Sarah J. Maas builds the world of Antarctica so beautifully, and it's, as I say, it's basically like the Middle East of that world. It's ruled by a guy called the Khan, who he has now 5 children who are all the heirs, and they are all sort of vying to be his heir and his successor. And the world in which we come from in the Tower of Dawn series is completely in chaos. By the time you get to book number 6, which is the one before this, everything is falling apart. And as well, in Antarctica is the Holl, which is basically the place where all of the healers are. They're the best healers in the world. They have magic, and Holl is sent there to get healed, but also to try and get the Khan to ally with him and Aelin and Dorian, who are the other characters in their fight against darkness, is putting it mildly. And so Holl arrives with a character called Nesrin, who is sort of his companion, and they arrive, and it's their story of figuring out this new world. The Khan and Antarctica is basically the biggest empire in the entirety of this world, and if he sides with if he sides with Chaol, sides with Aelin, sides with Dorian, he could change like the trajectory of this war, which is another reason why they've been sent there. And so it kind of follows the trials and tribulations of that, merging in all of the wonderful magic that Sarah J Maas is entered into this world. And Sarah J Maas always writes the most incredible and strong female characters. To every like one male character, there is at least 2 female kick-ass ones that are just going to shout in his ear, and this book is no different. There's Nesrin, who we know from the previous books. There's Irene, who is a new character who is a healer from the tour. But is she a new character? Irene is a character that we know, and Sarah J Maas is, excuse my French, bloody clever. Like, she has planned this out like an absolute boss. So there's a book in this series which is a set of 4 short stories, prequel to the first book in the series, which is called Throne of Glass. And in that book it sort of tells the tale of Elena / Selena, whatever we are calling her at this point, her life. And within that it basically shows people that she meets, encounters that she has, and one of the characters that she meets is called Ansel of Briarcliff, who basically comes and saves the day at the end of the last book. And another of the characters she meets is called Irene Towers, who we now meet in this book. And Irene doesn't know that the person that she's met is now this queen who is on a mission, this crazy, badass fire queen who's on a mission to save the world, is how I'm going to describe Aelin. Who is the main sort of protagonist in the whole series. She doesn't know she met Aelin, and until like the last page you do not know that Irene doesn't know. But there's Nesrin, there's Irene, there's Hassar, who is one of the daughters of the Khan, who is basically the head of the navy of this world, and not this world, this empire. And these women are just incredible, and as they, Sarah J Maas just writes them so incredibly, and they don't take no shit, they don't take no prisoners. They're all really flawed, and they all have their bad moments and their bad points and their weaknesses, but that just makes them even greater. And so, like, this book, I have to say, this is, I don't know if I just said it at the beginning, but I think this book might have been my favourite of the entire series, which is a big statement, I know, but I know a lot of people on BookTube, a lot of people on the internet had a lot of problems with this, as Chaol, as I mentioned, the reason he gets sent off on like a completely different tangent to the rest of the story and then ends up with his own book is because he gets injured, and basically the battle for Riftfall is the capital, gets injured pretty spectacularly, and so gets sent to the tour because this is the only place where he potentially could get healed. And a lot of people I've seen on the internet have been complaining that he feels sorry for himself, that he's not the character that we knew before. But actually, you know, this isn't much of a spoiler. Chaol ends up in a wheelchair. He's paralysed from like the waist down. If you were in a battle, Chaol had been he'd been the best friend of the Crown Prince of the world that we sort of go up in the first 7 books. And he was the captain of the guard. Chaol is used to fighting, Chaol is used to being in charge, used to being a guy on a mission, of helping his friends, of being like the guy that everyone goes to for help. And then gets put in a wheelchair, he can't fight anymore, he can't defend those he loves. And so, actually, you know what, that is going to change a person, that's going to upset a person, that's going to make someone feel a bit sorry for themselves. And actually I think this book just shows Chaol's journey so well, and shows him going from, you know, especially if you've read it from the beginning, you'll see him at the beginning, and then you see him when he gets injured, and by the end of this book he's gone back through the person that he was into this new person who's so on fire to go and like save the world and help his friends and save Dorian, who was his best friend. And you see him sort of forgive himself for all of the stuff that he thinks he's done wrong, and it's just so amazing. I can't, like, honestly. And actually this book, because this Tower of Dawn, let me go and get the other books off my shelf just for context. Okay, I'm back. So actually I was wrong, it's not 1 book, it's not 2 books, it's 1 book. So at the end of Queen of Shadows, all the characters go off. At the end of Queen of Shadows, I think that's the 4th, it's the 4th book release, the 5th book, no, the 4th book, and the 5th book in chronological order, the 4th book in release order. I think. That might be wrong. Anyway, it's like the 4th book in the main series. At the end of that, they have the battle for Rift Holl. Chaol gets injured and gets sent off to Antarctica into the tour. And everybody else, their story is in Empire of Storms. And while this is, and everything that happens in this, you kind of get bits of in Tower of Dawn. So because everything that's going on in this, they don't really know about until, so, like, a spy comes back, or, you know, they get a messenger. And so actually, if you read Tower of Dawn, you could, if you're interested in the series, you kind of just read Tower of Dawn and it tells you everything you need to know, because Chaol explains a lot of it to Irene in scenes, and everything that happens, especially in Empire of Storms, like, it all just gets summarised really easily in Tower of Dawn, because the characters don't know anything that's happened, so it's all getting summarised really fast and really quickly, so they can hear everything that's happened. And it's very interesting, especially because I think the last book that we saw Chaol and Ness run in came out like 3 years ago. Because after that there was the prequel book, then there was Empire of Storms, which they aren't in. Sorry, anyway, I just got a message. But yeah, I can't rave about this book enough. Like, I read about 200, like, I'm pretty sure I read the last, this is 650 pages, I probably read the last 450 pages in 2 days. I loved it so much, and I was just getting so excited, because actually for once in the Throne of Glass world, something feels like it's going right. I know that sounds really daft, but stuff don't go right in this world. People die, and battles go wrong, and the good guys don't win, the bad guys get even stronger, and for once in this book, stuff feels like it's going right. And I just got really excited, and there were so many moments where I was going like this in my bed when at like 2 in the morning. I accidentally whacked the wall because I was so excited. And I just, it's so good, and it just made my heart happy. And for once I didn't cry during a Throne of Glass book, which is like unheard of. And the characters are so great, and I loved meeting the new characters from Antarctica, who are the Khan's children and Irene, and it ends in a way that you just feel so excited, and finally you feel like something's going right. And I know that the next book, whatever that one is going to be called, probably half the people that we love are going to die. But I kind of don't want to read it. I want to end on Tower of Dawn and just be like, you know what, this is great, because it is, and I loved it. And like, the characters, I feel like, especially the main characters in this book, all seem to find like a person and a solace and a determination of why they're going into this war and why they want to do it. And it's just so perfect and magical. And it's not perfect because everything's a mess in this world, and like the forces of evil, the forces of darkness, the Vlag forces are so out to get everyone. But this book, it just feels like they made so many strides in the direction of winning, and it was just so exciting and fun and reading. And you know, there's points where you're just getting really angry, especially in the first 200 pages, but I loved it. I can't recommend this book enough. And if you've not read the Throne of Glass series, what the flip are you doing? It's fantastic. It's up there with Game of Thrones. I haven't read Game of Thrones, and you know what, I don't want to, because it's just seems so mind-boggling and time-consuming. And yeah, these books, admittedly, this is just the last 2, are flipping massive, but they're so worth it. And especially if you're a woman and you're a bit fed up of reading fantasy where it's all guys and the girls just damsel in distress, because in these books the girls kick ass, and I'm so excited for like what's coming next. And I just can't tell you to read this series enough. And if you've not read Tower of Dawn yet, because you've read a few dodgy, like a few reviews online that say it's a bit dodgy, don't believe them. It's fantastic. Sarah J Maas's writing just gets better and better, and I just loved how she introduced this new world and developed it. And you know, it would have been so easy just in the first 100 pages to just dump all this information about this new world, about this new kingdom, about this new empire, and she doesn't. She does it so beautifully, and she weaves it in, and it's so effortless. Like, Sarah J Maas is a master when it comes to fantasy writing. She's just the queen. So that is my review for Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've read it, what your thoughts were, if you've got any recommendations for me based on my love of Throne of Glass world. I hope you really enjoyed this. Remember to like and subscribe if you did, and I shall see you guys soon. Bye.